so much for joining us for our webinar on the best integrated ERP for Salesforce, which is Intacct. Again, I'm Sonia Friedel, president of Braincell, and I'm joined today by two lovely women, Linda Pinion at Intacct. Linda, are you there?
I'm here. Thank you so much for inviting me today to present the Intacct Salesforce integration solution. It's a great solution for folks to look at whether they currently have Salesforce or perhaps they're evaluating Salesforce and need a strong financial solution as well.
Awesome. No, we're really excited to showcase it, and it's not often that you get to see this product live to both of them in the integration, which we're going to look at. And then, of course, we have Kelly Pitt, VP of our ERP practice and quite the Intacct whiz. Kelly, hello.
Hi. Thanks, Sonia. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Great. So we are going to go through a few slides here. Linda's going to walk us through these slides. Again, we will be monitoring the questions box, so please feel free to populate the questions box as we move along. And then we're going to go into an actual live showing of this integration led by Linda. So Linda, go ahead and take it away, please.
Okay, thank you so much. Again, just remember, I'm going to stop along the way and open it up for some questions. But if you have something that you want to post in that question box, please feel free to do that. And Kelly knows that she can stop me along the way as well. So a few things about what we're going to cover today. As Sonia mentioned, really just going to cover a few slides to give you that visual of this integration and talk to you about the touch points between Salesforce and Intacct. And then I'm going to go through a process showing you that integration, and that will be an order to cash business process flow. So we're going to see that live. That's going to come second. Before we get there, let's talk just a little bit about the two organizations that are bringing you this webinar today. Of course, Braincell is one of our Intacct partners, has a lot of experience based in Boston. They're an Intacct and a Salesforce partner. And of course, they're focusing on your process and making sure that you are defining a process that works for your organization. Intacct is also another organization that is focused on process, and you're going to see that business process today in the integration. We're San Jose based, so we're on the other coast, so to speak. However, I am an East Coast girl, so I say we're on the right coast, Sonia, and they're on the wrong coast. But just understanding that we are a leader in cloud ERP, our core competency is financial management. We have over 13,000 organizations using our solution today. Now, we've been a Salesforce partner for over 10 years. We are a platinum partner, and that really affords us a lot of exposure and also a long history of this integration. So this integration has been around for many years. So you'll see not something that's new and on the bleeding edge. You'll see something that's tested and true today. Just a quick comment here from the CFO from Canto, and this is really representative of what we hear from many of our customers that are using this integration. This is top of mind for C-level executives, making sure that they are streamlining and automating their processes because, of course, that drives that transparency, that drives that single source of truth. And having that connected to Salesforce, so connecting finance and the sales organization together is what this integration does. We refer to them as the power couple. So think about Intacct and Salesforce as the power couple, and this is what's really going to give you the full view of your customer. And along the way, again, we're going to look at some of those business processes where typically if you're running in a siloed environment, so you don't have any integration between the front office and the back office, that means a lot of room for error. That means a lot of phone calls and emails. And sometimes that means that customers are really not getting the service that they need when they call in with questions. So to alleviate that, we want to look at an integration that connects that front office and back office with processes like quote to cash. And we'll also talk about two other touch points that you may be interested in. One is around projects and the other is around contract management. All of this is so that you can have a workforce that's more productive, that's communicating, that's handling those customer questions and keeping those customers coming back to you because you provide such exceptional service. So there's a few challenges of sales and finance and being disconnected. Many of these you're probably very aware of. You may be experiencing them today. If you look at the communication between departments, you really don't have a complete view of the customer. I think all of us have had that experience where we called into a company and had a question about our order or something about our account and basically got, you know, as I would say, the runaround. We got passed from one person to another person, and perhaps along the way we even got disconnected. And that's a frustrating thing to happen, and it causes us to wonder, you know, what's up with this company, and, you know, how are they really doing business? They're not providing me very good service. When you look at the communication between the departments, there's a lot of wasted time there because you're not investing time, you're spending time going from one department to the next, making those phone calls and sending those emails. And for many of us, that also means that we're duplicating our efforts. What I'm doing on my side of the table, you're also doing on your side of the table, because we really are not in sync. We're not communicating across. We're not sharing that information. And our information doesn't match. You know, I may be more current than you are. So what is the real truth around what's going on with the customer information? And then, of course, there's also that problem with slipping, you know, things falling through the crack, customers not being billed correctly. How does that trickle down affect your company as far as cash flow is concerned, as far as the number of calls from your customers coming in with questions about their invoices or their orders? So we may have some lost revenue, we may have some lost opportunities, we may even lose some customers because we don't get the billing right and we don't get it out on time. So when we look at having that front and back office connected, we're looking at that 360 view of the customer, and it does become more cross-functional. So information that I need from the Salesforce side is information that's being pushed to me from the financial engine, and that allows me to answer those questions first time, every time to my customer, or questions that I have myself about that customer. Now I have all that information in front of me. I also get to have visibility to information around price books and items and products and terms and all of those things that the sales team perhaps has had an input to. And we'll talk a little bit about, you know, how does the data get shared and how does it get synced up when we get into the solution. So the quote to cash process, and I say quote to cash, today you're going to see an order to cash, but you can certainly start with a quote instead of an order. We're going to automatically create, from the opportunity, we're going to create accounting transactions. So where I'm going to start out today is in Salesforce with an opportunity, and then I'm going to walk that through creating a customer order and through an order entry business process flow. And we'll look at all the touch points along the way. All of this information that we are producing then is being captured and is being positioned back to us via real-time, up-to-date dashboards in Intacct. So now, as those orders are being generated and created from those Salesforce opportunities, as those processes are occurring, I'm updating key metrics, I'm updating financial information, and all of that can be put onto an Intacct dashboard. So we'll take a look at dashboards as well. We're trying to make this as easy as possible. However, there are some permissions along the way. So if you're concerned about who gets to do what and who gets to see what information, rest assured that on both the Salesforce side and on the Intacct side, you have permissions that you can turn on for security purposes. When you think about one-click processing, what's occurring there is you're eliminating several of the steps that you have today, specifically if you're in a manual environment. Now we're going to be creating transactions pretty much automatically, especially if you're in a vertical where you need to do automatic renewals. We can generate those automatic renewals based on configuration and how you set up that integration between Intacct and Salesforce. Now, the bottom line here is that we're focusing on your customers. That's what this is all about. It's focusing on the customer, it's saving you time and money, and it's improving your visibility into what's going on in your organization. So just another little view here around how Salesforce and Intacct play together, and by the way, they play very nicely together. In Salesforce, I'm going to start out with an opportunity, and that opportunity is going to create information over in Intacct. Now, in my process today, I'm going to have it create an order, a sales order. However, I'm also going to show you that your process could start out with a project. So if you're a project-based organization, the project may be the first thing that happens, and then after the project gets created, there may be sales orders that get generated against that project. You might be a software company, and you could be, someone like Intacct as an example, where you have a product that you are licensing or a subscription type billing, where you are wanting to create a contract. And just recently, in the last 6 months, Intacct has released contract management. More recently, in the last 30 days, we have created an integration with our new contracts application to Salesforce. So now we have an object, a contract object, that from the opportunity, you can now create a customer contract. And, just to be a little bit more specific, not to get into the details here, but Intacct is able to provide a contract management solution that meets all of your compliance requirements for ASC 606 and allows you to produce not only the way that your contract is going to look in the future when this ruling comes into play, but the way that it looks today, and you can look at that side by side. So you look at the way it is today, and you look at it the way that it is under the new ruling. In addition to that, once we've created that order, we can move it through an automated process all the way to customer invoice. So you'll see that in my workflow today. There is some syncing that goes on between these two applications, and you get to control who owns the data as far as, do you want Salesforce to own the items, they call them products, or do you want Intacct to own the items? And we'll talk about that as well, because in some organizations, sales folks do not get to create new inventory items. New inventory items get created by a team that's on basically the Intacct side of the house. They're a subset of finance. They're a group of people that define what items are valid and what their numbering scheme is and their pricing and so forth. And that's not done from the Salesforce side of the house. What does happen is once you create it on the Intacct side, then you have the ability to share it over to Salesforce. So you don't have to create this big file of items or products twice. You create it once, you maintain it in Intacct, and you make sure that you're syncing up with Salesforce, so Salesforce has the same master data that you do in Intacct. So that's a little bit about the touch points in this integration. Now, if you look at some of the common areas in Salesforce and Intacct, this is how we map across. So accounts in Salesforce, customers in Intacct, price books, price lists. And again, some of these you can control in the configuration as to who owns that information and how it's going to be synced up with the other solutions. So you have records, you also have transactions. And you'll notice the linkage here between opportunities and sales orders. Once I have that sales order and I invoice it, then that invoice is going to come back over to Salesforce. Same thing is true with the payment. And when you look at the Salesforce record, you get to personalize what information you want to show on that screen. Now, of course, we know that anytime you integrate this, it's going to allow you to get rid of some of that redundancy in your data entry. And when you do that, you're going to automatically eliminate errors. So the controls are going to be there. The error trapping is going to be there. Your people are going to be happier. They're going to be more productive. If we look at the second piece here, this is where we are connecting to our contracts. So a lot of this in the top is the same. If you notice their price books, we call them billing price lists when we get into contracts. And when you look at transactions, now you see you have an opportunity that's going to create a contract rather than creating a sales order as it did in the previous slide. And again, you've got that contract then generating a contract invoice. Payments, and again, the same benefits you see here with contract management that you see with an order management solution. So orders, meaning sales orders, and contracts for contract management. So this is the flow that we're going to take. We're going to start out in Salesforce, and I'll tell you a little bit about the Salesforce piece of it. This is really not to get into managing campaigns and that sort of thing, but I'm going to talk through a little bit of the Salesforce that you see when I open up my account. And then I'm going to move right into the opportunity. From the opportunity, I'm going to generate an order. So I'm going to skip that quote step. However, know that you can do that if that's a choice that you make. And once I create that order, I'm then going to go into Intacct, and I'm going to walk that order through the process. We'll come back to Salesforce so that you can see that that information is being updated immediately right into Salesforce. We'll take a look at a few things in Intacct. If you see something and you have a question about the Intacct side of the house, please let me know. We'll certainly look at a dashboard along the way. So if there's something that you want to chat about, please put that in the question box. We'll go through that fulfillment step and we'll invoice that sales order so you can see that complete business process. So Kelly, any questions that I can answer before I jump into Intacct?
I think right now we are good to move forward on this. I don't see any questions so far in the question box. So folks, just to mirror what Linda said, if you have any questions, don't hesitate, throw them in there, and we will address them as they come in. Otherwise, yeah, sit back and relax, and Linda will show you the magic of the Salesforce and Intacct integration.
Okay, sounds good. So a couple things that I want to make sure of, Kelly. I have switched my screen, and so you should be looking at the Salesforce screen. I just want to make sure you can still see it.
Yep, looks great.
Okay, all right, perfect. If that changes for anyone, if you have problems hearing or seeing, again, if you'll let Kelly know, usually we can get that straightened up and fixed while you're still on the call. So a couple things I just want to point out here. This is a Salesforce instance that has been linked to my Intacct instance. Now, for those of you who may not know much about Intacct, today I am connected to a single company, a single instance running a single company's financial solution in Intacct. Intacct certainly works for multiple companies, so you can have as many companies as you choose to in Intacct that you are providing financial management solutions for. But today, I just have a single company, and it's called Cloud ERP, and I'm connected to this Salesforce instance. And for those of you who may not be completely familiar with Salesforce, many customers who use Salesforce use it for customer relationship management. They also use it to start or roll out a marketing campaign, and that's why you see, campaign here on the toolbar. And a general flow might be that you have a marketing campaign, and from that marketing campaign, you're going to generate some leads. And based on your own process of qualifying those leads and nurturing those leads, you'll be able to add that information into the lead record. And then usually there's some process that says, okay, we're ready to convert this lead to the next step. And that might mean converting it so that you can have what we call an opportunity. That whole process is defined by you as to how you want to use Salesforce. Today, I'm going to start out in the account area, and I already have an account that I've been selling into. So let's take a look at this account. The name of the account is BioCirca. So as I scroll down here, you're going to see some information about BioCirca. There's a couple things I want to point out along the way that point specifically to this integration. So the first thing is you'll see that there is an Intacct customer ID here. And that customer number is the same number that you would see and will see on the Intacct side. So there's a little bit of a difference here in how this integration works. So basically what happens is that if you create an account in Salesforce for a record that's not in Intacct, it will create it in Intacct automatically. However, if I create a customer in Intacct, it does not automatically push it back to Salesforce. You may not want everyone that you have on your financial system to be over in your Salesforce system. Now, much of what we do is bidirectional. So when I showed you those touch points earlier, you saw that we're sharing a lot of that information and we're pushing it both directions. So when I create an order in Intacct, it's taking that sales order and pushing it back over into Salesforce. But this customer number denotes the number that Intacct is assigned to this customer. There's also a balance field here. So if I'm talking to BioCirca, I'm a Salesforce user, I immediately, when I hear BioCirca, I go into their record. I can see their balance here. I also have some buttons up here at the top, and these buttons are mapped to Intacct. So when you look at these buttons, and again, these can be personalized, they are linked to Intacct. So when I click on these, it's going to open up a secure connection with Intacct, and that secure connection is then going to dump me into the customer ledger for BioCirca. So imagine, again, I have BioCirca on the phone and they're calling about their account. Without this integration, I'd be picking up the phone and calling Kelly and saying, I have BioCirca on the phone. I'm going to transfer them to you. They've got a question about their account. With this integration, I now have the information that is right here at my fingertips. I also can customize that information. So it's always going to default to the current month. So it's showing me May transactions. But if I wanted to look at a previous month, I could certainly do that. Didn't mean to click out of that. So let's go back into it because I want to show you the drill down capabilities as well. So as you look at this information, you might want to look at a specific invoice. So here we've got an invoice for a new alarm system for some apartments. We can drill into this information and we can see exactly that document. So now I've got my filing cabinet right here at my fingertips. I can see that I have an invoice. I can see when it's due. I can see that they have, in fact, made a partial payment on it. And I can drill into that partial payment here that was paid by a specific check. Here's all the information. Here's the items that they purchased and where they were posted to in the ledger. If I want to know the individual items, I can drill one step further. And drilling into this now gives me the detail of the product that they bought, along with the warehouse and the quantity and the pricing. I'm totally on the Intacct side here. I also have a history tab, and this is where, again, you've got that online filing cabinet. So you have the ability to say, I see that we took a sales order. It was taken by this person on this date and time. It went from a sales order to a shipping document. From shipping, it then went to a sales invoice. Each one of these steps in the process, I can drill into those transactions and I can look at the detail of the process. So this is a history tab recording everything that's happened in this transaction. Additionally, when that cash receipt was made or when that payment was made at the time that the invoice was generated, I now have the view into cash receipts. So now, again, think about your customer service folks who are answering those types of questions. How much do I owe? Tell me about an invoice. Tell me, did you receive my payment? I'd like to add something to my order. All of those kinds of questions that under normal circumstances you would be asking someone else to help you with, you now have that at your fingertips. Additionally, you know, I might be asking, if I'm BioCirca, I might be saying, you know, I never got that invoice. So can you send that invoice to me? Can you reprint it for me? And here from this screen, I can print it, send it in an envelope the old-fashioned way, or I can email it directly from this screen. So now all this leads to higher customer sat because I'm able to answer those questions while I have the customer on the phone. So just a quick way for you to see how that business process might flow and how, you know, how important it is to be able to drill into Intacct from Salesforce. Other buttons that are up here: order analysis, sales analysis, shipment history. So any of these buttons are able to link right into Intacct. Now, when you look at a particular account, you can have multiple opportunities. An opportunity is really the key touch point here that we want to talk about. So an opportunity, you can have more than one opportunity in an organization. I've got 3 of them here that I'm working with BioCirca, and I can be working with different people on these opportunities. And opportunities stand on their own. They can either be accepted, they can be won, or they can be lost. So you can have as many opportunities as you choose to. If we look at the product and services opportunity, there's a little piece up here at the front that you can hide. So I could hide all of this information. If you're familiar with Salesforce, you know this is Salesforce Chatter. And by the way, we have the ability to have Salesforce Chatter running in Intacct. We call it Intacct Collaborate. So we have the ability to share that chatter between Intacct and Salesforce. So that records all the changes and all the activity that I've done. So if we look at this particular opportunity, this is one where I am setting up some product and services, talking to BioCirca about buying these products and services. So on this opportunity, I have included 2 products. And the first one is a device. It's a piece of hardware. And the second is for some services. So when I talked to them initially, I went in and added these things to this opportunity. And to do that is pretty simple. Remember I said that Salesforce calls it products and we call it items. One item master, and I have synced it up to Salesforce. And that's what you see here. Excuse me. All of these items are ones that I have created in Intacct, and I have shared them to Salesforce. All I need to do is click the box and select to add another item or product to this opportunity. So doing that would then add another line onto this section around products and items. As it stands, I have 10 of those devices that I quoted at $7,000 a piece, and I have some professional services. This is 100 hours at $225 per hour. So walk through the storyboard with me. You're BioCirca. You call and you say, hey Linda, I'm ready to go ahead and pull the trigger on that opportunity for those devices and the services that go with it. So I'm immediately going to look at this opportunity. I'm going to validate with you that the pricing and the quantity is all good. Yep, everything's great. And from here, I'm going to click on Create Sales Order. Now, when I create that sales order, it's going to open up a secure box with Intacct, so that's secure connection. It's going to take everything from the opportunity and drop it into the sales order. So everything that's over here that's populated came from that opportunity. And you'll notice it has the reference here to the opportunity. Now I do have currency turned on, so it's asking me for currency, giving me a little heads up there that I'm changing the currency. Everything else looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and post the sales order. And when I post it, I'm going to get the green checkbox to tell me that it's created 1776. So it's created a sales order, and it's also created that sales order on the Salesforce side. So now if I come down here, I will see here is sales order 1776. I'm still in the opportunity. Here are all the sales orders against this opportunity. And if BioCirca calls back and needs information, I have all the information about the sales order along with the detail in the total. So if they were calling for the total amount, I have that. If they were calling to change it, I could call that sales order back up. I could make those changes, repost it. It would update the Intacct side. It would also update the Salesforce side. So that's the creation of an opportunity into a sales order. Now, let's go in and look at the Intacct side. So if you're familiar with Intacct, you know this is the dashboard view. If you have never seen Intacct, this is the controller dashboard. I've logged in today as Carla Grace. And I've got a few key things here on my dashboard. I've got some quick business insight, which is what these 4 performance cards represent to me. And I have some financial reports and graphs because these are role-based dashboards. So what's important to me may not be important to Kelly because Kelly's over in accounts payable and she's not interested in P&L reports. She's interested in vendors and AP bills. So she can have her own dashboard. Now, these dashboards are real-time, up-to-date information, and all that same drill down that you saw me do into the sales history, you have that same drill down from a reporting standpoint as well. But let's take a look at order entry, and let's look at our order here. And our sales order was $17.76. So here is our sales order. And you'll notice that it has a convert button beside it. Now, in Intacct, you have configurable business processes. And what that means is you get to configure the steps in a business process. For my process today, it goes through entering a sales order, and my next step in the process is to move to shipping. And after shipping, I move to sales invoice. And then I have an optional step that's a sales credit memo because sometimes people return things. So after I've invoiced them, they may return something. So I have a credit memo step in there as well. My next step after sales order is to ship it. So I'm going to come down and convert this information into the shipper, and it's going to take everything from the order and move it into the shipping document. I'm going to update a couple things here. I'm going to update how I'm going to ship it, and I'm going to put in a message here. Thanks for your business. And you can have some of those saved so that they print automatically on invoices and statements and that sort of thing. I'm going to verify that all this looks good, and then I'm going to go ahead and post this shipping document. Once I post this, it's going to move to the next step in the process, which is a sales invoice. And again, this is automating this business process, no rekeying of information. Everything came over from the shipper to the invoice, and if there was any sales tax, which in my case I did, I put some sales tax in here, calculated it out for me, and now I have an invoice. A couple of choices here. I can post and pay, which means I'll post the invoice and I'll also take a payment at the same time, or I can just post it. So posting this is going to create that AR open item on BioCirca's account. And now I have that same history that we looked at earlier that I can drill into. So here is my history tab, and here are the 3 steps in the process that we just completed. There is not any reason for me to go to payment details because I did not post and pay, so I haven't received any monies on this yet. So that is an order to cash process that started from Salesforce. Now, if we come back to Salesforce, and let's come back up here to BioCirca, and let's talk a little bit more about this opportunity, because there's a couple of other things that we could have done from the opportunity. One, we could have started this whole process with a project. So within Intacct, you do have the ability to subscribe to project accounting. So perhaps in your business, what happens first after the opportunity, when it gets accepted, you create a project. And creating a project would allow you to then populate information and create that project in Intacct right from Salesforce. Now, I've already created this project, and I can update that with tasks and activities, with notes and attachments, and I can share that information back on the Salesforce side. So creating that project is as easy as saying create project from that button. It'll open up that secure connection to Intacct, allow you to create the project, and then return that information back to Salesforce. In addition, if you were using the contract management from that same opportunity, you would be able to create a contract as well. Now, once you have really defined what your process is, you'll determine who needs access to what. And it's not always as difficult as maybe you think it might be, because you will have certain individuals that you will want to have in Salesforce but not be Intacct users, and that's perfectly fine. We can push that data back to them. They don't have to be a full Intacct user. So Kelly, any questions about what I've shown so far? Anything come through your question area?
Nothing so far, but yeah, I mean, so far so good with what you've been showing us. I have to just say that the amount of time saved by having these two systems integrated is important beyond belief. We just had a discussion about this yesterday, and no longer will your accounting team have to deal with stopping work and interrupting their productivity to answer questions on the finance side for the sales team and vice versa. I mean, I know from experience that that gets a little irritating to have to stop what I'm doing when I was in the accounting department here at Braincell. To answer questions for the salespeople because there was just no visibility. And now this is, like I said, important beyond belief. And the ease of this comparison is just so ridiculously nice. You know, compared to everything else that's out there, it stands alone. So, you know, please feel free to continue if any other questions come through. I'll let you know for sure. But yeah, we're good. We're on a roll.
Okay, perfect. So a couple things I want to make sure that you walk away with today is that, you know, Salesforce has been updated here. So if you look, I'm at the account level. If you look, and I entered a few things before we started today, but, you know, here's our 1776 order that we created together, and we have the invoice that corresponds to it down here. Now, what I do not have on my view here, which you could have, I just do not have it as part of my display, you could have payments as one of these sections as well. Notice that I've got my other sales document, which is my shipping document. So I've got my order, I've got my shipping document, and I've got my invoice. And that's, again, part of that configuration that you'll be able to pick and choose how you want this to look. Additional information, you know, that you think about from a Salesforce perspective is, you know, you may be tracking cases. So there may be a reason for you to have tickets or cases against this particular account. There may be some activities. You may be logging your activities. You know, we use Salesforce at Intacct. And today, as I finish up my day, I will go in and enter activity against accounts or customers that I have worked with, or prospects for me that I have worked with. When I do a prospect presentation, I go in and we've personalized Intacct so that I have a section that I fill out exactly what I showed in my presentation. So that's the real purpose here, is that I'm able to enter that information, and whether it's the salesperson looking at it or once it's closed, the implementation team's looking at it, It's a place for me to have all that information in one bucket. In addition to that, you may have some notes and attachments. Again, I attach notes, discovery notes, and slide decks, and all kinds of things. This may be a place where you attach contracts and agreements and that sort of thing with your customer. And then, we've got a place here to add partners. This is all configurable to what you need to use it for. This is just what we have configured this particular environment to look like. Now, I want to come back to Intacct for just a moment because I do want to just share just a little bit more about the dashboard so that you walk away with a good overview, broad brush, if you will, of Intacct. If you're looking for a strong financial engine, Intacct is the only cloud ERP financial management solution that is recommended and preferred by the AICPA. And the AICPA is the group of folks that know more about accounting than most of us do. So that's the Association of CPAs. They did their due diligence and looked at Intacct high and low. We've had this recommendation for many years now. I've been at Intacct for 7 years, and it was in play and in place before I got to Intacct, so it's in excess of 7 years. These dashboards are real-time and up-to-date, and again, you can create as many of them as you choose. You'll see a list here of dashboards that I have created. Dashboards are permissioned, so I can have a dashboard that's a view only, maybe for my auditors. I can have employee dashboards that I control exactly what they can see and where they can go. Important to note that Intacct has a full range of applications, if you will, accounts payable, accounts receivable, where we went in and looked at that invoice. Certainly project accounting, that's another one that I talked about, and being able to have the ability to start that project over in Salesforce and then capture everything about a project all the way down to generating an invoice for a project. That includes employee time, employee expenses, and any items or materials that you're buying for that project, and then of course any services or product that you're selling that need to be tied to that particular project. We also of course have purchasing and inventory control, sales order management, contract management, cash management, fixed assets, so a full array of financial management solutions. On these dashboards you have that same drill down capability that you saw me do with the sales order and the sales invoice. So if we take a look at this P&L report, you'll see that this is a report that allows me to come in and drill down on a particular data element, a particular line there, and I've got some conditional shading turned on. I've got some green and some red showing up. This is based on some business rules that I've set up, and this allows me to have that quick business insight. When I look at this information, again, it's going to take me right into the transaction, and I'm going to be able to see all the detail around where this $1,500 came from. And in this case, it's taking me right into a journal entry. So something that was created from the subsystem, a bill, and a bill that I entered to Staples for some May postage. So it was an AP bill. I've entered it. It has not been paid, and I have expensed that to office expense. So this is really kind of a broad brush of how Intacct keeps track of the data, make sure that you have the view of what's going on in your organization, and gives you that drill down capability right from the dashboards and from the reports. In addition to this, you'll be able to, of course, personalize this dashboard, change it up, drag and drop things. So cosmetically, you can have a single column, 2 columns, or 3 columns for your dashboards, and you'll be able to personalize these performance cards. Drilling into this allows you to compare data to a previous period. So as the controller, I may want to see how am I stacking up against my previous month. And again, same drill down capability exists. Everything can be viewed, it can be printed, and in most cases, everything can be exported out to Excel. So Kelly, I am going to exit Intacct and come back to our presentation and go through a few finishing slides here. And again, if anyone has questions, we'll stop at the end and open it up for some final questions. So just a few benefit statements that I'd like to make sure that you walk away with today. Kelly and I both have talked about duplicate entry, and we all know that whenever you enter something more than one time, you run the risk of making a mistake. And this is going to allow you to reduce the errors and also to save you time. We're also going to give you that view of the customer with greater visibility, whether you're looking at that from the account view in Salesforce and looking at those different sections with the orders and the invoices that we looked at and drilling into that information, or maybe you're on the Intacct side and you're sitting at the dashboard and you're drilling into that information. That is a way for you to be empowered to answer those questions and to identify what's going on within your organization without needing to pick up the phone or go into someone else's office and get that information. And then, of course, we want to address what's top of list for every C-level executive, and that is, streamlining and automating. That is going to reduce cost, and everyone wants to make sure that they're being efficient. And when you're efficient, usually that means that your employees are more productive, and typically they're happier because they have that efficiency in the process, and they know that they're able to get the task done and don't have to touch that paper any more than they have to. So I'm going to finish up by saying thank you so much for allowing me to share Salesforce and Intacct with you today, and open it up for any final questions that you might have.
Thank you so much. Now, everyone, I believe I've just unmuted everybody here, so if you have any questions whatsoever, the floor is open. And everybody is now unmuted, so please feel free. We've got a couple more minutes before we're at the top of the hour. So now's your time to ask Linda, our Intacct expert here, any questions that you've got. Okay. Well, it sounds like maybe we don't have any questions right now, which is fine. As Sonia stated at the beginning of the webinar, we are going to be sending this recording out in just a few short days, probably tomorrow. It'll be uploaded. So if you want to come back, take a look at it, feel free. We'll be sending everybody a copy of the recording as well. And Linda, I just want to say thank you so much for showing us this awesome integration between Salesforce and Intacct. Really valuable, I think. And so, yeah, thank you so much. I want to thank everybody here as well, once again, for joining us. And feel free to reach out if you have any questions, and we will be in touch with follow-ups. So thanks, everyone. I hope you have a great afternoon.